The Wise Little Girl by Brothers Grimm.
Once upon a time, in the immense Russian steppe, lay a little village where nearly all the inhabitants bred horses. It was the month of October, when a big livestock market was held yearly in the main town. Two brothers, one rich and the other one poor, set off for market. The rich man rode a stallion and the poor brother a young mare.
At dusk, they stopped beside an empty hut and feathered their horse outside, before going to sleep themselves on two heaps of straw. Great was their surprise when next morning they saw three horses outside instead of two. Well, to be exact, the newcomer was not really a horse. It was a foal to which the mare had given birth during the night. Soon it had the strength to struggle to its feet, and after a drink of its mother's milk, the foal staggered its first few steps. The stallion greeted it with a cheerful whinny, and when the two brothers set eyes on it for the first time, the foal was standing beside the stallion.
It belongs to me.
He was the rich brother the minute he saw it.
It's my stallion's foal.
Even the poor brother began to laugh.
Whoever heard of stallion having a foal? It was born to my mare.
No, that's not true. I was standing close to the stallion. So, it's the stallion's foal, and therefore it's mine.
The brothers started to quarrel. Then they decided to go to town and bring the matter before the judges. Still arguing, they headed for the big square where the courtroom stood. But what they didn't know was that it was a special day, the day when, once a year, the imperial himself administered the law. He himself received all who came seeking justice. The brothers were ushered into his presence, and they told him all about the dispute.
I can't judge which of you should have the foal, so it will be awarded to whichever of you solves the following four riddles. What is the fastest thing in the world? What is the fastest? What's the softest? And what is the most precious? I command you to return to the places in a week's time with your answers.
Dmitri stood to puzzle over the answers as soon as he left the courtroom. When he reached home, however, he realized he had nobody to help him.
One woman, one of his neighbors, came and demanded that the whole debt be wiped out in exchange for the answer.
The fastest thing in the world is my husband's bay horse. Nothing can beat it. The fattest is our pig. Such a huge beast has never been seen. The softest is the quilt I made for the bed, using my own goose's feathers. It's the envy of all of my friends. The most precious thing in the world is my 3-month-old nephew. There isn't a more handsome child. I wouldn't exchange him for all the gold on the earth, and that makes him the most precious thing on earth.
Dmitri was rather doubtful about the woman's answer being correct. On the other hand, he had to take some kind of solution back to the emperor, and he guessed, quite rightly, that if he didn't, he would be punished.
The day came when the two brothers were to return before the emperor. They were led into his presence. The emperor was curious to hear what they had to say, but he rolled with laughter at Dimitri's foolish answers. However, when it was Ivan's turn to speak, a frown spread over the emperor's face. The poor brother's wise replies made him squirm, especially the last one about honesty, the most precious thing of all. The emperor knew perfectly well that he had been dishonest in his dealing with the poor brother, for he had denied his justice. But he could not bear to admit it in front of his own counselors. So he angrily demanded,
Who gave you these answers?
It is my daughter.
You shall be rewarded for having such a wise and clever daughter. You shall be awarded the fool that your brother claimed, together with 100 silver ducats. But,
And the emperor winked at his counselor.
you will never come before me in 7 days' time, bringing you daughter, and since so clever, she must appear before me, neither naked nor dressed, neither on a foot nor on horseback, neither bearing gifts nor empty-handed. And if she does this, you will have your reward. If not, you'll have the head chopped for the impudence.
Tomorrow go and catch a hare and partridge. Both must be alive. You will have the foal and the 100 silver ducats. Leave it to me.
Ivan did as his daughter said. He had no idea what the two creatures were for, but he trusted in his daughter's wisdom.
On the day of the audience with the emperor, the palace was thronged with bystanders waiting for Ivan and his small daughter to arrive. At last, the little girl appeared, draped in a fishing net, riding the hare and holding the partridge in her hand. She was neither naked nor dressed on foot or on horseback. Scowling, the emperor told her, in spite of himself, the emperor could not help admiring the little girl who had so cleverly passed such a test, and in a gentle voice, he said,
Is your father terribly poor? And does he desperately need a foal?
Oh, yes. We'll live on the hares he catches in the rivers and the fish he picks from the trees.
Aha!
Cried the emperor triumphantly.
So you're not as clever as you seem to be. Who ever heard of hares in a river and fish in trees?
And who ever heard of a stallion having a foal?
At that, both emperor and court burst into peals of laughter. Ivan was immediately given his 100 silver ducats at the fall, and the emperor proclaimed,
Only my kingdom could such a wise little girl be born.